Hi, welcome to this Amazon Kids Week hands-on art activity. My name is Taylor Dow. I'm a comics artist and cartoonist who lives in Seattle, and I work with Gage Academy of Art, which is a community arts program in Seattle that works with Amazon. Today we're going to be doing a really fun activity where we get to create characters, cartoon characters, by finding objects around our house and using shapes from those objects to make cartoons that we can use in our own stories, our own animations, our own comics. You can follow along with me and make your own drawings, or you can just watch, or you can draw exactly what I draw, whatever you want. So you'll need any kind of paper and mark making instrument that you like. I'm using Sharpie on mixed media paper so that it won't bleed through and so that you can see what I'm drawing really well. But you can use a pencil or a marker or charcoal or really anything. I also think it's fun to draw with Sharpie personally, just because you have to commit to all your marks and work with your mistakes. Make sure you have a bunch of pieces of paper so that when you fill one up, you can just grab another one. You'll also need 3 or 4 small objects to base your characters on. So you can go around your house and find a couple strange objects. Hopefully things that you maybe didn't even know were in your house, where you're like, what even is this for? Grab a couple of those, 3 or 4 is good. And just keep those with you. We'll get to those in a second. And before we start, the other thing I'll say is that there's just no wrong way to do this. If you draw in a way that doesn't turn out the way that you wanted it to be, that's great. It's important to lean into our mistakes and explore. That way we can draw things spontaneously that surprise us. So if we're just drawing from our head all the time and we have a really clear picture of how we want it to be, it can be disappointing and we can give up if it looks different. But if we feel like, oh, weird, I drew this other thing, maybe that's a new idea, maybe that's something I wouldn't have thought of otherwise, then it's a lot more fun to draw, I think. Also, it's just being nice to ourselves is cool. Okay, so let's start with some shapes. So every character that you know and love is made out of shapes, whether that shape is a circle or a square or a cylinder or whatever. Every shape is sort of a character waiting to happen. It takes very little for something to transform from a totally abstract shape into a person or a monster or whatever. And you'll find that if you look at popular characters, I mean, they really are just kind of a pile of circles or squares. Cylinders, a lot of tubes out there. So to sort of get ourselves into the new shape space, we have all of our objects. So you can take your objects and one at a time, you're going to borrow silhouettes from these objects. So you can do that by actually tracing an object. Like I could put this down and I'm just gonna you wanna be really quick about this, it really doesn't matter, but I could actually trace this shape and I'll end up with something interesting. You'll find that you'll end up with a really different shape if you actually trace this object versus like if I were to put this down and look at it and kind of be like, well, it's got this little ridge here and it's got these 2 things and then it goes down and there's like another little ridge down here. These are totally different drawings. So you can get a lot of different shapes. This is a really good object, I think, because when you change its angle, if I go like this, now it's totally different. It's kind of got this, there's like this top ridge, there's like this back ridge. You kind of want to stick to silhouettes if you can, but there's really no rules. So get a bunch of objects, shapes from your objects, one way or another. Take this one, maybe rotate it around, find a weird angle, something you don't necessarily expect from this object. There's kind of a cool shape. And like I said before, it doesn't matter if these are good or if they actually look like the object. Like really, if you do a bad job, it's kind of better because you end up with stranger shapes. Like, I'll just draw some really fast ones. Okay, I got my nail polish here. Maybe we can kind of turn that upside down. That's kind of cool. It's got like this square on top. And then this like, that thing, that thing. Okay, and then maybe I'll look at that and be like, well, I want it to actually be a silhouette. So it'll be more like that. And turn it sideways. Okay. That's kind of cool. So here's all these shapes. I mean, I would never be able to think of these shapes without just a little bit of help from the outside world. So it's so easy. You can just look around you, pick up a rock or a paperclip or whatever and borrow some shapes. I mean, sometimes we feel like we have to think of everything by ourselves, but I actually think that as artists, we really get to just look around us and borrow. I also find that if I only draw from my head, I sort of draw the same stuff over and over again. This thing's really weird. Okay, well, maybe I'll like try this kind of angle, and then we'll have enough shapes. Okay, cool. So now we have a bunch of shapes. And pretty much like we saw over here, all it takes to make a shape into a creature or a person is we want to give it eyes. We want to give it maybe some sort of mouth. And we probably want to give it some sort of arms and some sort of legs. Tons of characters are just made out of these totally simple shapes. I think it's a good idea to take a piece of paper and just draw a couple different kinds of eyes and mouths and eyebrows together. Once you've found some eyes and noses and mouths that you like, then you can kind of take those and look at your shapes and just start adding. Think about where on this character there might be, that feels like it might be a head. So I think this one's a really obvious one. So I'll just give it some little eyes. I'll make it kind of upset, because I don't know, it seems like a grumpy shape to me for some reason. And then you can kind of just add little arms here. Where do the arms come from? What are they like if they're smaller or larger or whatever? This is kind of cute, this tall character. So try out some other ones with all your shapes, and you should end up with a couple that are your favorite. Okay, so now we have our sheet full of characters, and maybe there's one that you like more than another. So I'll look at mine. I really like this little guy with the bird hat. I think that's really cute. The next thing you want to do is, after you've taken your favorite character, you want to go ahead and draw them a couple more times, because what happens is that the more you draw a character, the more you kind of figure out the way you really want that character to be. So maybe I'll take this little character. So you're just going to want to kind of draw that character over and over again until you're figured out kind of the proportions that you like. But now you've got a character that is yours and that you love. You can give them a little name. I'll name this one Big Tondle. I don't know. This is Big Tondle for now. So now you've got a character that you love, you know, keep drawing them, keep practicing with them, and the more you draw them, the more you'll find out the way that they want to be, the way that makes sense for this character to act. And now you've got a cool character that you can use in all kinds of comics and drawings and animations, and anytime you need to make another one, just grab some objects from around your house, put them in front of you, and see what happens. My new best friend. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of Amazon Virtual Kids Week.